yeah, so what I'm trying to tell you guys is that why we need to understand and learn the business environment is because we need to first of all understand whether a project is economically viable or not, right? Whether the business case holds true or not. So if the business case does not hold good and cannot be justified, then we don't take up the project. So when we analyze the business environment, the first thing that we need to do is we need to see whether a project qualifies enough to be taken, to be worked upon, right? So we need to see whether we can actually approve the project to go ahead with the project or not. So we need to see whether the project is economically viable or not. That's the main reason why we study the business environment. Also, we need to look at the compliances, regulation, regulatory norms. We need to understand, how we are going to manage change, and all these things we need to understand in the context of the external environment and the project. So that's the reason why we need to understand, learn about business environment first. Without that, if we randomly select a project and start a project, we may be actually doing a project which might not fetch us any dividends, right? And it makes no sense to do such kind of a project initiative. You agree with me or not?
Yeah.
So that's basically the thing. So once you analyze the business environment, what do you do? So over here, so then you start the project, you plan the project, you lead the team. When you execute, then you support the team. As they execute, you help them out, to reach their goals. And then finally, once they reach their goals, we close the project. So what are we going to study in each of these? So your first chapter will take some time to finish, maybe 2 to 3 sessions it will take. Chapter 2 will go quickly, we'll finish it in less than a session or a session. Chapter 3 is going to take you a lot of time. When I say a session, it is 4 hours. Okay, we have the 36 hours of training plus maybe 4 to 6 hours additional training will be there. So it will take some time to cover the portions. If we end up covering the portions by 36 hours, we'll have an additional of 4 hours where we do some questions. If not, we will have to cover the syllabus first, right? So that's how it's going to be. And then when we talk about chapter 2, starting the project, we'll always talk about identifying the stakeholders, engaging the stakeholders, forming the team, right? Once we form the team, we need to have shared understanding and arrive at the project approach. So once we arrive at the project approach, that's when our charter and everything goes through, and then we talk about planning the project. That's where the project manager allocates the resources and starts the plan for the project with the resources, right? Allocated. So then we'll talk about the planning artifacts. When you look at the PMI slides, you will have, what do you say? You will have all the artifacts crowded over there, some 33, but over here you'll have 20 artifacts, and remaining artifacts will be discussed in chapter 5 and in chapter 4. Chapter 4 and chapter 5, that's in executing and in controlling. We'll discuss the remaining artifacts. Okay. So thereafter, what will we look at after looking at the planning artifacts? So what are we going to look at then? We are going to look at the project management plan components, and we are going to look at the project artifacts. So once we look at these two, we'll talk about planning scope, we'll talk about schedule, we'll talk about budget, quality, resources, procurement, risk, and then integrating all the plans. So whenever we talk about each of these, we will also talk about what we do when we work with an agile mindset and what about predictive. So we'll address both as we go along, right? And then we talk about leading the team. So when we lead the team, it's basically when we are doing the project, we lead the team, right? So we'll talk about the leadership skills. So this is the chapter where most of it would be covered in the previous chapters. So I will only deal with 3 concepts. One is motivation theories, other one is conflict resolution model, speed list model, and the conflict resolution strategies, and thereafter the coaching model. So these are the only 3 things that I will deal with in chapter 4. Remaining, I will be you guys out into a breakout room, and you will need to go through it and present it to me. Okay, and we will have a common consensus, and we'll move ahead. That's how we are going to deal with chapter 4, because chapter 4 is the easiest chapter, and we shouldn't be spending too much time on that. You will get some questions, but not too many questions. 70 to 80% of the questions will come from chapter 3 and chapter 5. So that's the most important chapter. After that, you have chapter 4 and chapter 2, and then chapter 1, and then chapter 6 at the end. This is how your questions will be distributed. Okay. And then we have project team performances. Okay, we'll talk about supporting the project team performance. That is while the project team is working on, we basically look at what is completed against what was the plan, to understand whether we are behind, whether we are ahead, or whether we are on path, and then we will take the required action to ensure that we get back on track, right? So that is basically the thing we look at. We'll also talk about supporting managing issues and changes. And then finally, when we talk about closing the project, we'll talk about, what is the closing process and how we communicate to the stakeholders regarding the benefit realization, and how we train the stakeholders to enable the transition and the transfer of ownership wherever it is appropriate. So this is how we are going to learn for the exam. So when we say predictive budgeting, we have got all the activities. Okay. So activity A1 to A100. So we say activity A1 to A20 are within one work package. So each of these activities, we have got a risk estimate for each of the activities. We add up all the risk estimates for each of these activities. And this risk estimate one is added to the activity estimates, activity cost estimates, to get the work package cost estimates. So each activity A1, what are all the risks attached to A1 activity? All that risks will have a risk estimate in terms of the costing. So A2 will have risk estimate in terms of costing. Like that, up to A20 you will have it. So you will add up all the cost estimates for the risk alone. You will get the total risk estimate for the work package. That will add up that to the normal work package cost estimates to get the total work package cost estimate. Similarly, you do it for WP 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then once you have the work package cost estimates, you roll them up to the planning package. So PP1 is equal to cost estimate of WP1 plus cost estimate WP2. PP2 is nothing but work package 3 cost estimate. PP3 is work package 4 cost estimate. And PP4 cost estimate is equal to work package 5 cost estimate. Now we have two control accounts for the entire project. So the control account one will be the cost of control account one will be equal to cost of planning package 1 plus planning package 2. Similarly, cost of control account 2 will be cost of planning package 3 plus cost of planning package 4. That will give you this. Now, both these control accounts put together, you need to have a padding for the project. So that is what we say, anyway between 5 to 15% we put the padding based on the project value. So 15% of CA1 plus CA2 will give you the padding for the project, which you will add on to the total budget, and that will be your approved total budget. That is total project budget. Okay, that is your approved budget. That is nothing but a cost baseline. So this is what you will get, and this is nothing but your cost baseline. Now, of this total amount, we will take 1 to 5% as the total management reserve. That your management will decide, okay, how much amount should go for the management reserve. So they will calculate a percentage of the total project budget, and they will take that amount not from the budget. They will take that amount from the total contract value. They will take that amount and they will allocate that for the project. But that will not be a part of the budget. It's
Why
the
it's not part of
management
the
reserve.
budget?
It's not a part of the budget because that's not the project. The project manager does not estimate the budget, right? The project manager estimates the budget. So project manager cannot estimate the management reserve. Management reserve is a reserve which is kept for emergency sake. If there is anything that occurs which is not forecasted for. So that is something which the management will keep confidential at its level, and if there is anything like that based on what is requested, they will look at it and they will accordingly release the amount, right? So that is not something that will be a part of the approved budget, because that is something extra contingency which is not forecasted, right? We are keeping something for which is not forecasted, so we cannot put that as a part of the budget. Budget has to be the known unknown risks which we are forecasting, that will go into the budget, because we know that it may occur, but again it may or may not occur, so we'll put that as a part of the budget. But whatever is not visible, we cannot just put we cannot just say $5,000 is for management reserve, so we are adding that to the project budget. We cannot do that. So what is management reserve is for unknown risk, and that is not forecasted. So that has to be kept in the reserve only. That has to be kept under management control. That as and when it's required, management will look at the criticality and the relevance of that and will release the amount. So you will not take that amount from the budgeted amount or the approved budget. So now I want you to go through this. Go through the notes also. The Word document which has got this, diagram, this will make it clearer for you guys. Okay.